Okay. So a few things on what's new in SharePoint 2019. This will be pretty brief. I do have a stronger development background, I would say, than infrastructure background, and that's transitioning now to more just like management than actual development or infrastructure. So I'm a people person. I like helping people. So I wanted to bring up a quick note on the SharePoint framework. This has been a point of confusion for myself as I've learned about it, but when you learn about the SharePoint framework, SharePoint 2013 does not support anything built in the SharePoint framework. Okay, SharePoint 2016 ships with version 1.1 of the SharePoint framework, so it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that SharePoint Online does. SharePoint 2019 ships with version 1.4.1 of the SharePoint framework. Okay, so that means there are limitations. The SharePoint Online, SharePoint framework right now, it's like 1.8 something or whatever. But the general rule of thumb, and this is the messaging from Microsoft, is SharePoint 2016 will always be at 1.1. And it's never good. They're never going to increase it. Okay, SharePoint 2019 will always be at 1.4.1, and they're never going to increase it. That's the current messaging. A feature pack or upgrade or something in the future may change that. I don't know. But SharePoint 2019 is a point-in-time snapshot of SharePoint Online. Okay, so you think about the evolution of product, right? SharePoint Online, SharePoint Online, SharePoint Online. They've been building it, updating it. I mean, every week there's something new. They're changing menus on you. You don't know what's going on. It's like I was actually offered to write some training material on SharePoint Online. I was like, by the time it's done, it's out of date. You know, like it's ridiculous, but it's interesting. So SharePoint 2019 is based on online. It's a point-in-time snapshot. It will always be on version 1.4.1 of the SharePoint framework. Okay. Now you can use the SharePoint framework tools to target solutions to SharePoint 2019. So that way they'll work in 2019 on-prem and in SharePoint Online. Did I just lose somebody? Okay. So if you are using the Microsoft SharePoint generator, the Microsoft Yeoman SharePoint generator, you'll notice I've highlighted that item there that says there's an option for SharePoint 2019 onwards, including SharePoint Online. Okay. So that'll scaffold out your project with all the correct versions and bits and pieces of things so that what you're building will work on SharePoint 2019. Okay? There's another version of the generator, which I think generally speaking is probably the preferred version in the community. It's the PMP SharePoint generator. And it gives you that same option I've highlighted there. Okay? So if you notice on the slide, the Microsoft SharePoint generator version, so the version of the generator is 1.8, okay? But we're creating a solution that is going to be targeted towards the SharePoint 2019 supported environment, okay? So that's something to be aware of. I don't think it's unknown that if you want the latest, greatest, bleeding edge everything, you want to be in the cloud in SharePoint Online, right, Connie? Do you have all the features?
I don't know. I mean, it's just because I have a personal SharePoint Online that I can play around with it, that I don't know if you're talking about all these features that are online. Are they regardless of the platform?
Yeah, I think so. Connie's question is she's got her own personal Office 365 subscription, and then the question is, do you have all the features and all the bells and whistles of all the other services and things? And you probably have enough to, I don't know. I'd have to look at it, to be honest.
With my Office 365, it's a separate subscription I pay for.
Yeah.
And I don't know the level on that. It's just I've had it for years, and it's something I use it prototyping on and stuff.
Yeah, and I pay for Office 365 Home just to have the additional storage in OneDrive, and to have, I can install Office on 5 machines, and my wife can too. Once we have kids, they'll have it on whatever they have by then, the little translucent, transparent screens. But
If they have that for $99 and I pay $15 or whatever it is a month for this other one, for my SharePoint.
yeah, if you're paying like the $15 a month, it's probably the per user license cost. So it probably has SharePoint and OneDrive and Outlook and Power Apps and Flow and
It actually has Power App X50. It has Power BI and SharePoint.
Power BI and SharePoint. Yeah. I mean, the easiest way to tell is just up in that waffle, right? Here, I'll show you.
Yeah, and I know the waffle. I just didn't know if I had all the features, like as you're talking about.
Oh.
I didn't mean for this to be a long discussion.
No, not at all. So, I mean, in order to know if you've got like the latest, greatest stuff, there's two different kinds. There's two settings you can look at in your tenant, and you go to the admin portal for SharePoint Online, and I'll see if I can pull this up. Or I want to go to the sorry, I want to go to the Office 365 admin portal here. And if I can remember where it is, billing, subscriptions, E3 developer tenant. There's a setting in here. It's not letting me scroll down, which is always nice. There we go. Organization profile. You see this release preference right here. So targeted release used to be called first release. Okay. So what that means is that as Microsoft is changing things, anyone who's set to targeted release is going to receive those updates without notification. You're going to log in one morning and you're going to come up here to open this gear and notice this entire menu is different. And then when you click on change the look, you now have these four options when you used to have just a panel with buttons on it. So targeted release is the latest, greatest, bleeding edge thing you can have, unless you're working for the product team at Microsoft.
Can you control that setting? Can you change that setting?
Yeah, you can change the setting. It's just on the organization profile. So there's the standard release, targeted release for everyone, or targeted release for selected users. Right? Because if you're a 60,000 person company, do you want to spend all that time training everyone? I mean, when something changes without some sort of a notice, people lose it.
They do.
They go crazy. Who moved my cheese to the nth degree? So you can have people who are responsible for putting together that material, those notifications. They get targeted release, and at some point, everything falls into standard release eventually, right? But it gives you that window of time to prepare. Communication. Does that answer your question? Perfect. Cool. All right, so a few other things here. Has anyone not heard of the modern experience? We've talked about it in here, but it's, also been a while. That's probably the biggest new thing about SharePoint 2019. SharePoint Online already has it, right? But it's also available on premises now. You've got modern page experiences, list experiences, the modern site templates for team sites and communication sites with their site designs. I've got a few screenshots in here for folks who like to get out slide decks and look through some examples. This is a modern team site. We've got a modern communication topic site. And modern. Modern is a big new thing for on-prem in 2019. Some things that are not in 2019 that I like to call out are those other services in Office 365. Okay, so what they did was they took SharePoint Online, said, copy paste, create SharePoint 2019, but now you're dealing with something that used to have all these other services available is now in a standalone environment inside someone's firewall. You can't really include Delve and include the graph and all these other things. So these are services that come with Office 365, Microsoft Teams, Yammer, so on. Now, if you have a hybrid environment, there's some answers there, right? But I just want to call some of that stuff out. Some of the other things.
Quick.
Yeah, Henry, go ahead.
Is this further proof? And I know Microsoft won't confirm it, and maybe they'll say more at the conference. Are we going to be seeing the on-prem version of SharePoint come to an end probably in the next 5 years?
Good question. Just to repeat it for those online. Are we going to be seeing the end of SharePoint on-prem in the next 5 years or so? I wouldn't expect so. The last messaging that I've seen from like Jeff Tepper, has been, we are committed to on-premises environments. That's almost verbatim what I've remember him saying anyway.
Said it last
Yeah, he said it last year, and it's like, I remember when they announced they were going to do SharePoint 2019 on-prem, right? And everyone was like clapping, yeah, hooray, like, yes, you better do it, Microsoft, because, you know, if you have SharePoint Online, that's great, but you do have the 5,000 limitation. You do have other, you know, limitations. If you want to have a developer really dive in and do some custom application, really cool, no holds barred, you're going to have an easier time as a developer doing it on-prem than you are, you know, in SharePoint Online. SharePoint Online, everything's client-side. You have to, you know, get permission. Your app, you have to create an app that has permission. There's all this stuff. You know, you've got to work with the system you're given. Whereas on-prem, you can do something much more advanced with fewer restrictions, provided you know the guy in IT or gal in IT who runs the farm, right? So I don't see it going away. And we have a lot of customers at Catapult that the cloud concept is still a terror. It's still terrifying. I mean, I'm a bank, I'm a financial institution, or I'm in healthcare or whatever. You know, Microsoft has all these certifications for their cloud now, but just the concept of I'm in a shared cloud, a multi-tenant cloud, so my data is out there with your data, and and I can't do custom vanity domains, vanity URLs.
Right.
I remember my very first project with SharePoint Online was in end of 2012, and it was with the Cook County Sheriff's Office in Illinois, right outside Chicago. I worked on the prison campus. They gave me a hard time every day. I couldn't get in, you know. It's like, why are you here? I'm like, I'm here to work with Keith in IT. Let me in. But, you know, the big point, we were like weeks into the project. We had done our planning. We started building stuff out. It's like, okay, I want to change that URL because it was something.sharepoint.com. This is my very first project, right? I'm historically a very gullible person. So, you know, I have cops telling me, you got to change that, man. I'm also working on the prison campus. So I'm like, I'm on it. I'm going to go figure it out. I had to come back and say, we can't do it. Best we can do is have a redirect from internal to external. But then when your folks go home and they need to get on, they're going to have to hit the .sharepoint.com, right? So that doesn't really it solves the problem if only people work 9 to 5 on the office, on the network. Then you're good because you can send them wherever. But they're on their mobile device nowadays. They're working from home. They're remote. You know, I'm in Mexico working a few weeks ago. Like, you can't. You gotta have some flexibility there. But there's just some things you can't do. So important to be aware of. I've got a couple links to some resources out here. So, pardon me. I don't want to sit here and read these to you. That's not the point of these kinds of meetings. But Nick Patel was a colleague of mine out in Chicago. He does a lot of articles, and this is October 26th of 2018, so it's older now, right? What are we on, almost 8 months now? But he goes through, and he has a nice long list. What is not supported in 2019? Site design, site scripts, hub sites, modern themes, the native. So here, I've got a SharePoint 2019 environment up right now. And this is something that we've got some folks at Catapult still, I don't mean still, but our customers are not on 2019 yet, right? So we've got a few that are new, and they're starting off with 2019, and that's great. But we're learning some things as we go, too, across the company, because we've got junior consultants who are diving into this stuff, and they're finding that, oh, I can do this in SharePoint Online, so surely I can do it on-prem. or vice versa. So something as simple as if I go to the gear here and change the look, see how I've got these themes? These are modern themes. Okay, now if I go out to my SharePoint Online environment and I go out to this site here, change the look, I go to my theme. Ooh, look at that. I've got modern themes, but I can also add my own for Halloween or, different companies, little brands here. Samples. Oh, yeah, my Chicago Cubs theme. That one's great. The red and blue. So you can, in SharePoint Online, you can add custom themes for the modern experience. In SharePoint On-Prem, at this time, and I mean as of today, May 1st, 2019, this could change 3 weeks from now, the PowerShell commandlet to add a theme is not available for SharePoint 2019. There's no way to upload a new theme at this time.
So the site design, site scripts.
No site designs, no site scripts. Unless something has changed, right? I am pulling some of this from Nick's article, which is a few months old, but generally speaking, the message here is never make that assumption, right? I think that might be a possibility. Let's check it out. Yeah. Yep. And we run into that all the time. Now, I actually had here. I can pull up Microsoft Teams. We had a conversation going on about this recently here. Let's see. I got to go to Activity. I got to find Bijou. Here he is. Okay. So this is today. Literally today. How do I create a custom theme for a modern site for on-prem? For SharePoint Online, I can use this script you guys wrote, right? Which uses this set SPO theme commandlet, but that doesn't work on-prem. So first issue I have with this question is, why did you assume it worked on-prem just because it worked online? That's kind of what we're trying to coach people through, and that sounded more negative than I meant it, but it's like, you can do it online, great. You can do it on-prem, great. But don't assume that because you can do it in one, you can do it in the other, right? There are nuances to all these things that make it a tricky story. Let me go back to. I think there was another item mentioned in here that SharePoint 2019, 15 gigabyte file size. SharePoint 2016 was 10, so they've upped the file size. I think they've support for special characters, longer URLs, various improvements for all sorts of other things. This list is, if you're interested in diving in and learning more about this, there's a whole long list of this, and this link is in that PowerPoint. Okay. Does anyone have a specific question about 2019 and what is or is not there? Henry?
Well, I see SharePoint designers out there, so what do you use, 2013 designer?
Let's see. These are deprecated, so still available and supported, but Microsoft's not moving on it.
Oh, I got you. I'm sorry.
So basically, this is saying that you can connect to it. You can connect to a site with SharePoint Designer.
Right.
And 2013 was the last version of that. But you get what you get. If you have trouble connecting to a web service or something, or some API's not working, that's that story.
And this is a very basic question. I was actually looking at trying to use that this morning and found I didn't have access to it. And is that mean it's something that was configured where I couldn't have access? Or?
That is, yeah. If you try to get into a site with SharePoint Designer and it's not letting you in,
the option was gray on the menu. It was there displaying SharePoint Designer, but it wasn't something I could select, which means I think my admin had disabled that feature.
yeah, and you can disable SharePoint Designer access. So if it was something was grayed out or you couldn't connect or whatever, then it was access was turned off for that.
And you could do that per user though, if I went to them and said push strings on.
It's per site collection, if I recall. Yep. Thanks, Rod. Confirmation here. 2013 designer works with SharePoint 2019. So we are at 7:35. We typically go to 8, and I try to get folks. We got to be out of here before 8 o'clock. But any questions, things you guys want to talk about or see or
Or is that open question?
open? Yeah.
Oh, I always have questions.
Let's go with the question.
Okay, as I was leaving work today, an email came here and I'm like, oh, bad word. There's a consistent process that we have to do for the group. And so my thought was, how can we communicate where we are in this process? So I started wondering if I could do something like Flow and then have a Power BI dashboard that would show different phases of this process. But in my mind, Flow, I equate with email. And so why would I do a dashboard if I can just send an email where this is at? So can you think of is Flow more than email where I can have that dashboard where they can monitor the status of this process? Because there's multiple phases.
Well, so I think if I'm understanding correctly, you want to be able to provide an indicator to folks on where you are in a business process. And so
and I don't want to do it just your email because, like I said, people ignore their email and will still get questions.
Yeah, people tend to get inundated with email and then overlook things. But I think the ultimate, and we struggle with this a lot at Catapult, is you can build something, but how do you get people to go to it? So if you build a Power BI dashboard, that's great. How are you going to get people to go to it?
Well, that's why I'm hoping that people are asking some questions. They know they could monitor the progress of this group has to do something, this group has to do something, and they could see where it's at.
Mm.
That was the question. They said, when's this going to be done? What's the first month? We're still waiting on somebody else to do their stuff, and then there's another series of steps. So we could just say, the whole of this group here. And so that was the thought. Is, we can always communicate that through email, but instead of them shooting that email, we need to know that status, click on the dashboard. And that's what my thought was, Flow. But again, I associate Flow with emails, so we're still sending an email, then that's going to be populating the dashboard.
Yeah, you can think of Flow as a way to communicate via email in an automated way, but also a way to, it takes actions for you
That's what I was looking
on
at
certain things, right?
She got me update a SQL Server, and then my Power BI would be based on the SQL Server, because if I still has to initiate an email, so I got to do my Power BI.
Or what you do is, and I don't know, just spitballing here, but if you build the dashboard, if you set all that up, okay, to where there's some flow process updating data that's fueling the dashboard, and the dashboard's always up to date with the latest. If you build that and then show people the dashboard, give them the link, hey, bookmark this, check it every Monday, you'll see what's going on, that's going to work better than a once a week email, click this link to see the latest status.
It's always at the end of the month, it's a month-end process.
Okay, month-end, yeah.
Anxiety of when's it going to be done?
Yeah.
And it's a multi-step process, and that's where I was going to say that the progress is the bottlenecks keep. Okay. So again, somebody would have to do something to update something or to be displayed on the dashboard.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm wondering if Flow is actually the best mechanism, because again, that's an email in my mind versus
into the day list.
what it is it's content processing. So there's a group that has to do some write-offs, and then they send it to somebody to process it and do the job on the SQL Server who does some updates, and then there's
How's the
more
audio
processing
coming
on the
across?
SQL Server. Then there's a Power BI dashboard report that gets updated. Then there's some validation checks. And so there's about 5 or 6 different steps. And I'm wanting them to see where they are along those steps.
So what's your trigger bit?
That's where my team waits for another group to send us the
Are they updating some piece of data that
They are sending a file for our team to